Hello, and think happy, very much so. But also, I feel that maybe you can get creative. So this was today, and it's pretty much if you have a sort of very sort of black and white view of the world, that's pretty much how you're going to end up, and at best you'll end up with an epitaph that says something in memory of a full life of lies, because this world is seemingly lies. Seeming lie, and it's all artificial, and you've probably seen machine stitching and you get an odd bit and you pull it and the whole thing unravels, and it's sort of basically the veil. We're doing the sort of summary of humanity over the last recent times, and sort of starts with this static feeling at odds with the world, and an expression of a anxiety and a panic attack, not knowing how to interact with the world. Let's find another picture here. That's the falling into the pit of obscurity, shall we say. Here we are. You're going to get moments in your life. I mean, some people will possibly see that that's what awaits. It's a very black and white view, and something above looking down, and you got this being, this figure, sort of coming through the sort of mist of time. And I thought, you never see this thing in pictures in action, so where are we? So I thought we'd give you a graphic image. That's actually stage 3 of Birth from Above. If you think of this figure here, this Grim Reaper, it's basically a gardener. You've got this fertile central processing unit, the brain, and it sort of, depending on what signals which interact in a biochemical way, there's a seed down here, the solar plexus, and this being will sort of come down and split you in half right down the middle and look for that seed. So I thought, nobody's really expressed that. And of course, coming on to the next picture when I can find it. Bear with me. I've had to sack the the studio team. I'm having to do it all myself. Actually, there was never a studio team. It's just I write the script, I create it, and express it. This is all something new to me. It's not something I've done before. Where is this picture that I want to find? Here we are. So, this is an expression of probably the most important part of your life. Let's just explain what you got here. This represents, he is us. It's all of us. You got your shadow side, your divine feminine, your subconscious, which is reaching out to you to take a step. And of course, the illusion is the lower I ego that puts up this terrifying picture. And this one's saying, just take my hand and step through. Be fearless, step through the door. when one door closes, another one opens, and I have found this to be very much the case. I had a interesting phone call. I'm not going to say who. It's another channel. Basically, for want of a better word, pleading with me to change the world. Well, so what's actually being asked of me here? To change the world. I'm sure you agree that there are some rather enormous entities that have never, well, they're entities, but they're non-living entities. They're just conceptions, they're just illusions, because they're never going to come and shake my hand. They're never going to come and introduce myself, and yet I hear so many people talking about the government, the church, and so on. The this, the that, but they're just conceptions that are just an agreed concept, and because it's an agreed concept, it sort of comes into existence, and yet it doesn't exist at the same time. It's very much like this reality. So where are we going with this? Yes, so you're never gonna shake the hand of these things, but it's a lot to ask. But as a challenge, well, how big of an entity do you feel like I could take on? Let's go right to the top. Let's talk about Mick, and I don't mean Angel Michael. I mean military-industrial complex. I mean that's pretty big. What do you reckon my chances are? It's quite a challenge, and I'll accept. But you've got to think about this reality and this picture that emerges from the seeming lie external world. Because you unravel that seam, it's like a layer of the veil. Now, it's expressed in expressions like, how do you see yourself in the world? How do you see the world? How do you view something? What's your view on something? And so on. And of course, you have the mind's eye and how you see things. What eyes are you seeing with? I mean, let's just think about the eyes for a minute. It's not right that really the right illustration here, but it'll do anyway. So you've got the pupil. The pupil is the student. It's taking everything in. So now let's internalize this. Quite literally, internalize this. Let's talk about it in the physicality of food. You absorb it, you take it within yourself. Now, it is processed by a system, i.e. your intestines, your intest times. And it will take what it needs and hopefully expel the waste and get rid of what it doesn't need. So now let's think about the mind food and what's going in through these students of life, the pupils. But now let's consider this part. Now I've said before that there's an analogy. It doesn't matter whether you feel it's right or not, but just go with it as for the point of view of analogy. So I'm looking down upon Earth. This iris area is basically the land, and so it probably has got a slight sort of curve. Welcome to beveled Earth. Sort of beveled shape, and then with a lens over the top. And then you could say you've got an ice wall with the white of the eyeball, although it's not white in this one, but I think you get the picture. So, turning now to, there's a contraption in DIY. It looks a bit like a comb. It's made out of steel rods. and you put it round a door frame, and some of them will push in and it will replicate the shape. So you can cut lino or carpet to fit it round the complex sort of angles and joins and things of a door frame to a wall, for example, and to a threshold as you go through a doorway. So the expression about taking removing the rods from your eye, if you think of the iris as being like that coaxial cable, now this part of the eye, this iris, think of it, it's a cross section of a coaxial cable, or a multi-strand cable. So you've got this central core, the pupil, then you've got the insulation, and then you've got these multi-strand cables, or if you want to straighten them out and make them more solid, think of them as like rods that project out. Now, imagine you're looking at a key going into a door and you're seeing it as a cross-section, almost like an X-ray of a key going into a lock. And I'm sure you can visualize this in your imagination, and that key will have all these little indentations on it. And then when it's pushed right into that lock, it then syncretizes with the shape. The two shapes match. So another way of expressing this would be about the chlorophyll in certain plants that the South American rainforest shaman, when they say about the plants, tell them what things to use to heal people of what would be normally sort of terminally, you'd be terminally ill and die of something, but they have a track record, and they say the plants tell them it's because the chlorophyll is syncretized with their DNA in the same way that the indentations on the key, if you're viewing it from the side when it's in a barrel of a lock, everything will fit perfectly and you'll be able to turn that key and open that door. So you imagine now, going back to, imagine you've got the rods coming out here. I don't want to draw on this because I won't be able to make it difficult to get it back off, but they're like rays coming out. So now you're a co-creator. You have this background scene that's going on all around, and you have this you can potentially have this terrifying thing depending on how you see the world. And this stepping out the comfort zone, stepping into the unknown, hopefully this has expressed it as that looks quite daunting to go through. But if you trust in yourself, this is just a reflection of you. See, it's sight in it being expressed again in terms like reflection, and you reflect upon things. The world is a reflection of you. It's a background scene. But you have a freedom within it. I mean, I don't care if it's an enclosed system and we can't get out of it, to be perfectly honest. If I don't perceive it that way and I don't see those boundaries, it's not a problem because I'm not importing that. I'm not ingesting that. So these rods in these eyes, if you set your intentions, so you would be making, you can get these things where you can press your hand into them. It's the same sort of like these little rods, and it leaves an impression in this thing, and then the other rods all stay up, and you've got this outline of where you put your hand impression onto this thing. Again, it's like these rods. So your intentions, so some of the rods are going to be further out, so you're creating a pattern. Now you have a neutral field outside of your informed field. If you create the world you want to see as you step out into that external world, you create this pattern with these rods at different lengths. So you're putting something out into this ether, into this universe, into this reality. Now that is going to have to match, because you can't have a void part. That will come to meet you, just like this will come to meet you at some point. It may not look like that. That may not be how you see things. Only you will know what is shown to you in your mind's eye. This one up here that has no physical. This is just a representation. Anyway, I digress. So to get back to the point, the point of everything is you. But you go out there, and before you even go out there, you haven't even got to physically move. You can do this while you're still lying down in bed, and you fall into the state of how you want your day to proceed, what you want to see in it, what you don't want to see in it. So, for example, you visualize yourself doing say you're walking into town. Now, when I do this, I do not want to see anybody getting arrested. I do not want to see any road traffic accidents. I don't want to see people arguing. I don't want to see people getting in punch-ups and all these negative things. And so I visualize, and it unfolds the way I wish to see it. Because this coding from these invisible rods that are coming out from the pupils, the multiverse, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the ether, has got to fit the pattern that you have created. What you are now projecting out. This is two-way traffic with eyes. This world is like mirrors and illusions. They reflect back. Your eyes work two ways. It's two-way traffic. The pupils are called pupils because you're learning. That's the input side. This is the output side. If you look at many videos that show telescope views of these planets, it's often pointed to that they have this sort of small circle that are facing directly towards the observer. It's like the pupils. All eyes are upon us. You're being watched. Big Brother is watching you. It's not just in an AI sense. You're on a giant eye that's looking out. It's reflecting back. The magnetism of the stars and how they affect people, like full moons, how you can feel the immediate difference. If you're standing in shade because the sun's obscured from behind a cloud and that cloud moves, you feel those sun rays. There's an instant change. And that's in feeling. You can confirm it with the eyesight that, yes, it's suddenly got brighter. You haven't even got to look directly at the sun to appreciate that. And that instant change. In the beginning was the Word. Now, surely the Word is the voice in your head. The thoughts that you create, that you sort of, shall we say, vocalize in the mind. This is a garden. This is a fertile garden. That's why there is a harvester, a grim reaper. It's looking for a seed. Have you managed to embody all of this? Bring this into unison. Bring yourself into one. Have you managed to, where you've been cleaved apart by that grim reaper, have you managed to let that spiritual chrism oil, that kundalini rising, glue you back together to reform you? It's a reformation. It's a metaphysical reformation. You are reforming yourself. So you've got that background scene. That is going to play out. And there is this continuous program to try and get you to feel insignificant and you can't do anything. So, yeah, I accept the challenge. If you feel that you can push one person forward and say, look, I want you to face this thing. You're asking me to be David against Goliath, but how big do you want Goliath to be? That's quite a challenge, but am I to fear what I can see is not even real? That is not even a living being, it is artificial. Artificial intelligence. The intelligence would encompass conceptual ideas. They are agreed conceptions of intellect. So it is an artificial intelligence. It doesn't even need to be a computer, does it? Or a machine. The whole thing is artificial. See, I don't see any of these things that the theatre show of the media evil age that we are in. I can't verify any of these things. And if you want to see examples of it, then look at Yolanda's True Love True channel. Her latest video on, was it St. Louis, X marks the spot? I thoroughly recommend watching that because she's put it all together on what is being displayed, and it looks a very complex minefield to try and decode all this, but it is being decoded. It is possible to put all this together, and likewise, the more you are prepared to go to this stage and face your shadow side, you've got a spiritual path. You might as well make that spiritual path a lot easier on yourself if you start with a solid foundation. This is fundamental. And you are funding a mentality because you are feeding it with your true wealth. You are building on a solid foundation when you face your shadow side, when you let go of all identities. Because if you let go of all these things we're supposed to identify with and latch onto, there is no insult or anything that can be thrown at you because you're not affected by it, because you're not having to try and defend it. And most of it is just illusionary concepts and so-called history, and perpetuating things of the past that may be decades ago, maybe centuries old, resentments that have lost all original meaning from what they were probably first concocted for, but capitalized on and kept going. And this is one of the reasons the world the way it is today, because feeding energy to it, you've been given a script to look at, to observe, to take in through the pupils, which now will depend on how you feel about things and how much you believe of what you have taken in through those physical eyes. So now what you're putting back out through those chemical changes that have come about from your processing from your brain, and what it is then pumping back out into that reality. Now, if you can do the other synchronization, you can match yourself to that script. So if that fear is script is saying you've got to be fearful of everything, to the point where you start to think, am I even safe walking around a supermarket? Because apparently not, according to all the subliminal messages about keeping you safe. From what? There is nothing that is going to harm you. There is an unlikely chance of maybe a ceiling panel falling over on you. With health and safety, I do not recall seeing these pyramids of baked bean tins, so they're not going to fall on you. You may get somebody who's looking at a mobile phone walking around and not looking where they're going and maybe bump into you. That's as far as unsafe goes, I would have thought, mostly in the supermarkets. Or your carrier bag breaks and a tin falls on your foot or something like that. But hey, take responsibility. You put the stuff in the bag, you overloaded it. You pushed the plastic to its stretch point limit. Even at that level, it's... but how you see the world, how you wish to see the world, how you interact with it, is very much through these and this. You get a trinity going on, a triangle. It's a bit like that top of that dollar bill. It's like when you're on this level. Incidentally, Jason Archaics has shown you've got a hidden level passageway leading in straight to the Queen's chamber. So I don't know whether it's true or not. I would say most likely. I'd say what it's also showing is to even things up. Take the level neutral path, which is the easiest route, which is made easier if you sort all this out within yourself. Embrace this one. This one will sort of fade out in the background, and what's left of it will actually then, you'll all be facing the same direction. So, wow, we've gone up to 26 minutes. That was so much for a brief video. So, hopefully that's made some sense and given you an intended pun here. Intention is aim. It's between I am and Maya. The aim here is for you to see things with a new perception that are going to make things easier on yourself, and having an understanding of how your interaction with that external background scene and how you can take control of your immediate environments, your informed field around you, and how as you move your reality bubble and expand your reality bubble, and therefore you're absorbing more of the external. But you're right. You're overwriting the script on what you want to see in that reality bubble. So this is why this spiritual path is a slow progression. Because if you're taking too much, it's like eating too much. It's too much to digest in one go, and it's just going to come back up. It's not going to be the type of ascension you want. It won't be fully processed, and it'll be very acidic, and it won't taste very nice, and you won't like it. But there's a spiritual version as well as a physical version, a macro and a micro, a mirror, an opposite polarity reflection. And that's why so many things appear to be bad, but they're not actually bad. They're just contrasts. And this started off as a white page. It's only by adding in various shading and then adding in colour that it's no longer just a white piece of paper like that, for example. So it's painting a picture, an expression of all of us, really, and that dreaded moment when you have to face yourself. But step through that door. Have no fear. The only thing that's holding you back is you. And you'll find this more and more, that the only restriction is those thoughts you hold in your mind that are stopping you, whether it be through doubt or fear. But I'm finding that this is working in incredible ways. I'm not going to go into it now, but let's leave that over for another time. Wow, we're up to 29 minutes. So I will say love to you all, and do that shadow work. Embrace yourself and deal with all those long, deep-rooted issues. Get to the rock bottom of everything within inside yourself, and recreate yourself, because you are a co-creator, and you are remembering, you are putting yourself back together in a new way, with a new perception and a new way of seeing this reality, and what this reality is here to show you, and it is actually here to help and guide you. If you have if it wasn't firewalled off and you had that ability to co-create in its ultimate form, what the hell are you going to create? You know, got to do the inner work first. Oxygen mask on oneself first. It all starts within. It all starts at the center, and you are the center point. So love to you all, and ta-ta for now.